Hello. This is a response, and I'm going to do it quick, and that's a promise. It's 4:05 on Saturday afternoon, and the sun's going down. It's just going behind a cloud, so it's going down. So I'll be running out of light. I'm knackered. I got up this morning to go to the car boot sale because I wanted to get back to watch the rugby, and I missed it. I thought it was an hour earlier than it was. What a knob! So I missed the whole thing. I wasn't. I've not been to the car boot sale in a long time anyway. But that was one of the reasons, because it meant I could go out. I don't like not going out on a Saturday. I could go out, go and have a mooch around, and then get back in time for the rugby. But that didn't work. Anyway, this is a response to Dave Iamagamegeek. I can't remember what. 300, I think. 300 subs competition where you talk about your gaming history, and well, you don't. If I'm honest, mate, you don't have to enter me into the competition. I just really wanted to just take part. I'm not sort of like necessarily want to be entered into the competition. I just wanted to sort of contribute. That's what I meant to say. Contribute. So you don't have to enter me in the competition. I just, I want to do my own version of this because I don't like not taking part. So, but anyway, if anybody doesn't know, Dave's he's offered a competition for people who do this, talk about their gaming history and make a video of it. And it's a really nice, very generous prize. Check out the video. I think he's just done his. He's literally just recently done his. I think there's still time. And this has been going on a while, and I've been dragging my heels, and I've not got round to it until now. But so I'll just crack on. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I was trying to drag up a few like artifacts, or even make a better version of the video than just me talking to the camera. I don't often put much effort into my videos other than doing this. And I thought I might do this time, but my attempts were pretty poor. So I'll just, as not what normally happens, I'll just stick to what I know. My gaming history. Well, I'm 36 now. 37 in May. So I've been around a while, seen pretty much, or experienced pretty much every generation, but not actively experienced every generation, but been around when, at least I think so. My first experience of a console or a video game, a home video game, would have been when I used to live. For the first 4 years of my life, I lived in Harold Wood in Essex, and we moved when I was 4 to where to Enfield, which is pretty much where I've stayed ever since. But we lived in Harold Wood, and we lived in this row of like sort of 60s built townhouses, and each house had a little yard, and then behind the yard. There was a big play area for where all the kids would hang out and basically leave all their toys and stuff, and and then they get rained on and then fall apart, and that's generally, it became a dumping ground generally for like little kids' rubbish. But it was like this. It was a play area, communal play area for all the kids, and which meant that all the families got to know each other, and we'd been in and out of each other's houses a lot. And then my best friend. Not seen him in a while, but my best friend was a kid called Jamie. He had an older brother, and his older brother had I think it was an Atari 2600. It might have been something else, but I can remember going into the kitchen, and he was sitting in their kitchen playing Combat on his 2600, and I thought, oh, wow, I didn't actually have a go myself. I thought, oh, that's brilliant. What is this? I'm not really seeing anything like it in the before. I've definitely seen arcade machines, but that was the first experience of a home console. I mean, before that, I'd seen. I can remember there was a cafe that had. It had an Asteroids machine. I think it had a trackball. I think did Asteroids did have a trackball, didn't it? I remember really wanting to go, but it was really difficult with the trackball. Not really. I think I did play it actually, not really having any clue. But yeah, that was. I mean, that was a long time ago. That was when you used to be able to get like tins of milk in cafes. I don't think you still get those anymore. Oh fucking hell! I didn't realise how dark it is. Bollocks. And I've been I did that. You can see me if I put my hand there. Fuck it. The sun will go down eventually. Where was I? Oh, screw it. You don't have to see me, do you? Where was I? Yeah, arcades. Asteroids in this cafe a long time ago. Probably one of the first experience I ever had of or playing a video game. After that, my first actual experience of a home machine was my dad brought home one day an Acorn Electron. But my overriding memory of that, because it was a long time ago, don't really remember it, was how disappointing it was, because it never worked. It did work, but it worked about 2 or 3 times, and I can. Sorry, that's really getting my tits. Oh, screw it. So weird. That's no different. If I turn the camera around it, that might work. So there's an even tour of my computer. That computer's on its way out. It's going to be replaced soon. Anyway, no, screw it. I'll give up. Yeah, my dad bought an Acorn Electron. It never worked, and the one game I can remember playing was not sure if it was called Frogger, but it was essentially Frogger. And I enjoyed it, but it wouldn't work, and it got sent back. And I don't know how long in between it getting sent back and the next console. It's probably like months, but the next machine we got was an Amstrad CPC 464 colour screen, which I loved. The first time it put a game in to load up, it really I suppose this would have happened with Acorn Electron, but I remember this more with the Amstrad. But the noise it makes when it's loading up, that weird sort of scratchy noise. That I remember going, was that music? I thought it was music. I thought they played you music as the game was loading, but I don't think anybody actually explained to me what it was. I just thought this was weird avant-garde, like sort of, futuristic jazz. Actually, I was thinking. I wonder if there's anybody out there. Do you remember that game show, You Bet, where people would demonstrate all their weird skills? I wonder if there's anybody out there who can identify a tape loading video game from the noise it makes when it's loading up. I bet there is. I'm guessing it. It varies for every game. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, my favourite games on that. I mean, it came with all the Ampsoft ones. I mean, there's a lot of shit. Probably my favourite one was Oh Mummy. I did like Roland on the Ropes, but I know I do remember beating a few levels. But I think Roland on the Ropes was the levels were randomly generated, and a lot of them weren't winnable, I think. Which you don't really get nowadays, do you? Or do you? I suppose you might do with incomplete games being released. But I do remember rolling on the ropes, enjoying it, but then there's a lot of like running around, avoiding rats and drips and things. But I remember I completed the Galactic Plague once, and that was a major achievement. I was only a little kid. Me and my sister used to play like massive marathon stints of recording. Yeah, I suddenly realised it might not be recording. Me and my sister used to play massive marathon stints of Gauntlet and Gauntlet 2, because you could keep on going as long as there's one person alive. The other person, when they died, could just jump straight back in. So, and the only time we had to stop playing, we were forced to stop playing, was when we got stuck because we didn't have any keys and we couldn't get off a level, But what else did I think I can remember playing a game. It was a rugby league manager. And I got really good at it. I remember taking Keithley to I don't think it was the Premier League at that time. It was the title. I took Keithley to the title. I think I started in the second division or something. And that was my first experience of a manager game. It probably wasn't much different from what manager games are now. But I remember having a demo of Space Crusade, which I loved. I'm forgetting so many games. I could never complete that demo though. If I try and think of all the games I had on my Amstrad, I'm just gonna be here for ages. But this is like what Evo Haler said about the getting the old budget games and the old Codemasters games from weird places like newsagents and petrol stations, and they'll either be £1.99 or £2.99. Yeah. It was either that, because you couldn't always afford the £10.99s, the £10 ones, could you? But there was rarely much difference between the budget ones and the full price ones. But from my Amstrad, I think the Amstrad sort of got forgotten about. One Christmas I was given a Game Boy, like pretty much everyone sort of my generation had a Game Boy, and I got the standard. The standard Tetris pack, which, fuck, that's dark, isn't it? I'll just sit really close and talking to the. Look at my luggles. Actually, that's not too bad. If I sit this close, I can block out some. Because what it is, because all the sun's coming right that window and bouncing straight back. So then the light, there's too much light coming into the lens. So if I sort of block it out like that, why didn't I think that beforehand? So it just means I have to sit really close to the camera. But anyway, see right up my nose for later. I got a Game Boy one Christmas, and I think I had it for a while, but then I sold it. Must have been in the fourth year, so that would have been 11, 12, 13, 14. I sold it to my mate Gad. He's from Israel, and I sold it for £100, and he brought me two. It was a load of games, and he brought me two crisp £50 notes. And I think it's the only time I've ever actually had two £50 notes. But no, I had some really good games in it. I had the one I would really like back is Operation C, because I was actually better than that than I thought I was. I mean, my memory isn't really very accurate. I seem to remember that I was shit and it was really hard. But from watching videos, gameplay videos back, I actually got quite far. And I remember completing Kung Fu Masters. I used to love that. And I was an expert on World Cup. I could regularly complete World Cup, and I think the Super Mario Land was the actual game I've completed the most times in my whole sort of years as somebody who plays video games, and that was great. There's lots of games I never got that I wanted to play. There's one I think I remember, it was about penguins, and you used to throw chuck balls at each other, and they either end of a table. Really weird. Can't remember what that was called. What else did I have? But anyway, now then I sold that to my mate Gad. He used to run a goat farm called Geddy Cheese. Goat cheese. They used to make goat cheese called Geddy Cheese. We went down there once for his birthday. He showed us around his goat farm. It's great. And I think from that point on, I think I bought a Mega Drive. I want to put that towards a Mega Drive. I can't remember. I'm missing all these details. And because I remember I bought. That was it. I went to the friend from whose brother all those years ago had played Combat on the Atari 2600 or whatever it was. They stayed where they were, and we moved, and we used to visit them all, to go back and visit them all the time. And then I think I went back when I was like a teenager, and he had a Mega Drive, and he showed me Altered Beast and Streets of Rage. I thought I was blew my mind, and then I think it was at that point I'd sold my Game Boy, and I'd not actually played Mega Drive, and this was the first time I played Mega Drive, and so I think I put the money from my Game Boy, the £100, towards the Mega Drive. But before it, I bought. It must have been for my birthday. These are details I can't remember. I actually had Streets of Rage. I went out and bought Streets of Rage from Chicana Computers in Wood Green before I actually had the console. So I'm guessing it must have been that I was getting a Mega Drive for my birthday, and I bought Streets of Rage before that. And so yeah, I used to love Streets of Rage. But then I can remember this was sort of a bit of a turning point. I had quite a few games, or you'd only ever have sort of 6 or 7 at a time because you couldn't afford them. You trade them with people. I remember I traded swapped. It was just sort of like a temporary swap with George Grotis. I had Madden 92, and I swapped. Was it 92? It must have been quite late down the line. I had Madden 92, and he swapped me James Pond. Madden 92. I think I've shown it before. That was the one I discovered a cheat for and got it printed in meme machines. But yeah, I had. I remember this is what I was looking for. I used to have a games magazine that I bought from Smith's donkeys years ago, and it was an American one, and it sort of turned me onto RPGs because it had this whole sort of preview of Shining Force. I keep forgetting. And this whole preview of Shining Force, and it's something about the character models and the portraits. They're really close in it. I felt a bit of a twat seeing this close. Something about the character models and the portraits which just stuck with me. And I remember being really just crossing my fingers that it was going to get released in the UK, because at that time RPGs sort of were, it was sort of 50-50, and I don't think there were any really good ones. And then luckily it was, and it instantly became my favourite game ever. I didn't really understand about RPGs then. I didn't really understand things like grinding, and levelling up. I just played it, and I remember getting stuck because my soldiers weren't very powerful. But it's when it gets a bit confused, because I had my Mega Drive up until I must have had it until I went to university. All my friends, when I had my Amstrad, all my friends had Amigas, and which I felt a bit of a knob only having an Amstrad. But then they all had Amigas, but then I got my Mega Drive, and then I was like, yeah. I can remember taking that was at EA Hockey. I used to take that to my mate's house, and we used to have EA Hockey tournaments. But because it was my Mega Drive and my game, I used to beat everyone, But then I had 20 minutes. I had it all the way up to university, and I can remember that was in '95. I did 1 year in Leeds in architecture and then failed. No, I didn't fail. I did fail. I just didn't go back to do my retakes because I needed to retake structural mechanics exam, which went right over my head, and I knew I was never going to pass it, and redo the final project, which was really easy to do, and they essentially did it for me, but I just sort of bottled it. Anyway, so I was only in Leeds for a year, but I remember that Christmas of '95 getting Premier Manager, must have been Premier Manager '95, and Fantasy Star 4. And I remember my mum came up to visit me before Christmas, but I still had sort of, this was probably in December, or maybe it was November, and we bought them then. But she rather than taking them home to wrap up, in readiness for Christmas, she'd actually left them with me and trusted me not to play them, which didn't happen. Obviously, I did play them, but then I think there was a few months where I actually sold it. I traded it in. I must have traded it in somewhere. I have no idea where it went, because I had a SNES for a few months, and I had some good games in it. I had Mario World, and I had Kevin Keegan's Soccer Manager, I think, which I used to love. And I had probably my favourite game. I never really actually got very far, but I didn't stop me loving it. Was Shadowrun. Loved it, and that's one of the few games one of the games I regret most ever getting rid of, because it was so bloody expensive now, and I had a proper box copy. So I only had my SNES for a while, but then I when it came to the end of that year in Leeds, I can remember I'd paid the deposit for a flat for the second year, which I obviously never moved into for the flat. But I can remember with the people I was going to move into, we were like talking about, oh yeah, I remember going, I remember buying this second-hand Mega Drive from this place that sold sort of second-hand games and games consoles in Leeds, and I remember talking about how much fun we'd have with it, playing it next year, but obviously that never came to fruition. But I had Cannon Fodder. That's one game I remember having. And also, actually, another thing, this must have been, again, near the end of the year. I remember finishing a major project, and a load of people went out to get rat-arsed, and I got, because I was only 18 or 19 at that time, I can't remember. I remember getting really, really drunk, too drunk. I wasn't really used to it, and going out, and I used to have like £50 budget to live on for food and other things, generally, for a week. And I remember going out on that Friday. I used to get it every Friday. Spent my sort of money for living on, going out, getting really drunk, and then spending half 25 quid in HMV. That's how early it was, because HMV was still open, and I went totally blotto and went and bought NHLPA hockey. I can't remember which one it was. No, it's escaped me. But anyway, yeah. Don't drink and buy games. That was a good. It did become one of my favourite games. I mean, I love EA hockey anyway. So then that stayed with me. That Mega Drive stayed with me for a while, and then it came down to the. I had a sort of year off after that, where I sort of decided what I was going to do, and I sort of worked at Tesco's, and then didn't really, because I wanted to go back to university, but didn't really want to know what I was going to do, and then sort of while I wasn't working all the time, while I was working, I remember I had a PS1, because I traded the Mega Drive into CEX. I can remember taking it to cash converters in Enfield Town, and they went off me peanuts for it, and I thought, fuck that, no, and ended up taking it to CX, and CX gave me a lot more. I think it must have been cash, because otherwise, that must have gone towards the PS1. So I got the PS1, and it must have been an early one, because it's one of the audio file ones. So relatively early. I remember actually this guy I was at university with had a Saturn, and I was in awe of him because he had a Saturn. He was from Hong Kong. This guy called Freddie Chu, and he had Sega Rally, brilliant. But then my year after Leeds, I had my PS1. I still got now. and I bought it with Tomb Raider, Star Gladiator, and Destruction Derby 2. 3 great games. I think out of all of them, Tomb Raider hasn't aged well. It's very much of its time, but and that's still PS1 down there. Actually, it's down there, looking a bit worse for wear. But then I think after that I sort of I still had games, and a lot of games I just kept hold of, like Suikoden 2. I got it around about that time. I bought it for £13 in CEX in Rathbone Place. But I did play it, but I think I sort of grew out of gaming. I think I got to the point where it felt like I was going to leave it behind, but I never actually did. But I never played quite as much. But then I eventually, when the original Xbox was released, I sort of it captured my imagination again with Halo. I really wanted to play Halo because it wasn't like anything I'd ever played before. So I bought an original Xbox. I can't remember how I afforded that, because I was because I was at university at the time. I probably sort of spent a load of my student loan on it, or my grants. I can't even remember when that was. No, actually, that was after I went to university, or near the end, anyway. But I mean, I used to sort of play on my PlayStations on and off when I was at university, when I was at art school. But it was never like a major thing. It was just sort of like a casual thing. And it's since then. I mean, even when I got the Xbox, it was still like a really casual thing. And it's only sort of probably since about 2005-06 it's become. I remember I had a bit of money. And I can remember being really pissed off because I'd had a big Barney with my mum, and I can remember this is when I had my Xbox and I had all these certain games, but then there was no RPGs on the Xbox, and I remember seeing them all in game, all these RPGs I couldn't play. I really want to play them, so in this sort of like fit of rage, I went out and bought myself a PS2, quite near the end of its life, or relatively near the end of its life. I mean, it was well established and it was cheap. I mean, I bought one on eBay, a brand new one for about £70. So, it wasn't that. It was quite old, I suppose. And just because I had that money and I was really pissed off and angry, you sort of purchasing in anger, and then it's sort of gone on from there. I still had quite, obviously, I can't remember how much money I had at the time, but I just sort of went and bought all the games, because they were relatively cheap. Went and bought all the games that I felt that I was missing out on because I only had an Xbox. It's not saying I didn't love my Xbox, but it didn't really fulfill that. It didn't really scratch that itch, that RPG itch that felt that I'd been missing out on. And since then it's sort of slightly changed. Now I've not really gotten rid of games, not really got rid of consoles. I've only ever sort of sold off the odd one or two, but mostly duplicates. I think it was down because I got rid of Suikoden, the original Suikoden, and traded it in, and then just regretted it straight away. And that sort of taught me not to get rid of games. But since then, I've had consoles given to me by a few people, like Carboot Gamer UK, Dan. He's given me 2 consoles. He gave me a Mega Drive and a Dreamcast, which still am blown away by. Was and still am blown away by. I just like having that catalogue. I've said it in the past. I like having that range of catalogue. Why limit yourself? Why limit yourself by I don't have too many. I've got just enough. I know I'll play them, but so that was my PS2, and then I had my 360. I think I sort of felt that I think it got to a point I felt I was a little bit too cool for school, and I felt a bit embarrassed to ask for 360 for Christmas. And in the end, I thought, screw it, and I would ask for 360 for Christmas. And then I think that it became slightly more serious and established, that this is what I do, And I got a 360 for Christmas, and I think I've got all the games behind me up on the shelf. That's my collection of 360 games, and they're just above my thumb. But, and then actually, the Wii. I got the Wii. My mum bought me that for my birthday because she. I can't remember what came first. I think that actually came before my 360. My memory's shocking, but my mum bought me the Wii for my birthday because she wanted to use it when she was round here. She wanted to play Wii Fit on it. She bought it for herself, but she couldn't justify giving it to herself, so she gave it to me. And she wanted an opportunity to use Wii Fit, but we never did get a Wii Fit board. But yeah, and from that point on, I've got all these other consoles, and it's become more of a collection, sort of a game catalogue stroke collection. I like to pick and choose wherever takes my fancy. Where like a library, picking something off the shelf, and just playing it, not putting too much pressure on myself. 31 minutes. This is essentially that's what I don't really explain that because that's where I am now, and I think you've seen a sort of a what's the word? It's essentially what the fuck am I talking about? Since I've been making videos, what I'm saying. So if I tell you that now, I'll essentially be repeating myself. From all the way back when I first started back in 2010. February 2010, but I just totally lost track. I'll cut it off here. So I wanted to talk about arcades. I had so much to talk about arcades. Got arcades on holiday. Yaya Kung Fu on my Mega Drive. That's one. Amstrad. That's one I forgot. Yaya Kung Fu. Arcades on holiday. Shaolin's Road in Magaluf. No, not Magaluf. Palm and over with my parents in the hotel. It's a really dodgy little hotel. And I had Shaolin's Road because when you finish the level, you used to go guts. Star Wars Arcade. The coffin used to terrify the shit out of me. Scare the shit out of me. Terrify the shit out of me. It's not a word, not a phrase. Ninja Warriors. It's Ninja Warriors, isn't it? That used to scare me because of the arcade machine had that letterbox thing. As a little kid, you couldn't really look into it because it's too high. It was like an early form of censorship because it was really bloody, wasn't it? And I thought it was something a bit dangerous and something I shouldn't really see. Obviously, that was the case, and Rad Racer was the only arcade I've ever completed. Arcade game I've ever completed. Rad Racer, the one with it's like the racing game with the. Sorry, I can't piss off. With a little Sonic wing mirror ornament that rocks as you go around banked cambered bends, and then you have shortcuts. Anyway. My memory's not good enough for this sort of thing, but I'm going to cut it off here. Cheers to Dave. Like I said, you don't have to enter me in the competition. I just wanted to contribute. But check out his channel. He's one of the most genuine people on here. One of the nicest guys you could ever hope to. He's all about just really so much experience of it. From a totally different generation. Experienced all these consoles from a totally different perspectives. So go and check out his channel because he's one of the most genuine people you could ever hope to experience. So I'm going to cut it off before it gets to 35 minutes. If any of that made sense, good on you. I'll let you go. There'll be a pick up video coming up very soon. See you later. Thanks for watching.